Guess I should have tested the microphone first. Hey, Aaron Dizzle and Modog. Appreciate you guys coming in. Hey, Tim. You all are making me feel good. I was afraid nobody was going to show up and I was just going to delete it like yesterday's live. And if you tried to get in yesterday's live, I apologize. Apparently, you have to wait 24 hours after requesting to go live for your first live. And that was the story of yesterday's live. So it did make live on my Facebook page. And I know Modog is driving because he texted me 30 seconds after I sent him a message, told him I was going live, and he said he was going fishing. We basically sent it at the same time. So this is kind of a, yeah, I know you're on your way to fish. I've got too many other things to do right now. But you're tempting me. So one of the reasons I wanted to go live is most of you might have noticed I changed the channel name. And so started out with Del Patton Outdoors and came up with that because, you know, growing up, it was Jimmy Houston, Bill Dance, Hank Parker. They used their names. So if I was going to start this a year ago, that's where I started with my name. But you all are newer and know that you've got to have a brand bigger than your name getting started. So I hope he sees this video. Yeah, we'll get to you not inviting me to go fishing live with you. So a couple of months ago, I didn't say no. I sent you the message first. So a couple of months ago, watching YouTube videos, and my wife heard the video that was playing, and she said, "That guy is boring." And then I just started rolling laughing because it was Ken, the boring fisherman. And from that day, my wife said, "You need to change the name of your channel, and it needs to be something towards you." So most of you know, recently retired, although I've got the next 2 weeks to clear out of the Army, turn in all my stuff. But I was a signal officer, and the slang name when we were in trouble was somebody would yell SIGO, which meant the signal officer needed to go show somebody how to use Facebook. It was our fault that somebody couldn't use Facebook, somebody couldn't put in their password right. It was always my fault. They'd yell for the SIGO. So that's where SIGO Outdoors came from. Kind of like Ken with his boring voice, which is awesome. Watch Ken, the boring fisherman. Watch his stuff. He's great. So Modog, if you haven't heard his story, Modog was, yeah, you do need a SIGO. See, you should always let me go fishing with you. Modog got his name from racing cars, and he was sponsored by a dog food company. So taking all that into account, That's the reason for the channel name change. Um, it's been hinted at for a couple of weeks when I made that logo. It's been in the last few videos, so that should have been some tips. And then when I was in with Modog the other night, if you saw in parentheses, I put SIGO. So it channel name officially has changed. I'm still Dell, same guy, just different channel name. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I was hoping you guys would have some questions for me to answer before I have to go let my giant dog in who's barking at the kids across the street. And this is the other reason I can't go fishing with you right now, Modog. And oh, by the way, I have found a way. In fact, I did it yesterday. You can stream from a GoPro to your phone. In fact, that's what I did yesterday is I had my GoPro on a tripod and I went live off of my I think I went live off of my phone using the GoPro as the camera. Yeah, Tim, I hope we're as big of a deal as Modog. Although getting to 100 this week is all the great followers of Modog on those Thursday nights. And I hope you are pulled over. If you're not, I can have my next door neighbor pull you over. Well, yes, I know you have a question. Don't plan on going too long with this today either, because I know Modog's got to fish. Tim's probably out there trying to finish rigging his new canoe. And I actually need to get in the garage. I got all my old Army gear out of the attic. Need to start getting that ready for turn in. Well, Tim, if you have a question, type faster. You don't need a SIGO, you need faster thumbs. All right. While you're typing, I'm going to go let my dog in. If you see a big, giant, white, fluffy dog try to hop in this seat, don't worry. She's actually very friendly. I'll be right back. See, I told you I'd be back. All right. What is the skill it takes to catch catfish on a white spinnerbait? Of course you would ask that. And then what was you've tried my technique, it didn't work. So what's the secret? The secret is apparently fish tournaments that Tim Vaughn schedules in lakes that are full of catfish and not very many bass. Does this dog fit in an R? Probably. Although can't carry much gear. It'd be me and my dog. Come here. Come here. Come here. Actually, I'll let you see her. So she's about 130 pounds. Very sweet baby. So between me, oh yeah, if she'll stay in the rear tank well, she's never really liked water. The little Pyrenees down here underneath, he loves to get in the water. So he'd probably jump in all the time. But believe it or not, Pyrenees turn into big babies. Her favorite place is cuddled up next to me on the couch. Well, then you didn't train your lab right, because I had labs growing up and I love labs. Now, I did have a lab way back when we had a bass boat. Took her fishing one time and I'd already trained her to retrieve game, which meant every time I threw out my spinnerbait, she would start barking and try to jump in after it. So that didn't work out too well. If you've trained them to retrieve, you better make sure that they know that heel command and they don't jump out because, labs love to swim. You fish a lot of places that have very few bass and more catfish, and it still doesn't work. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Change your name to Mo Cat. Like I changed it for you for a couple of weeks when you're trying to help me catch bass and all I caught was catfish. I know you're kidding. Oh, sir, that's how you're going to lead me, sir? Really? All right, in 2 weeks, I don't expect to ever hear that again out of your mouth, Sergeant. Just kidding. No, Tim, it's not your fault because it was more than one lake that I caught catfish. Just that one day at Fort Cobb when only you and your brother caught bass that day. Yeah, all I caught were catfish and crappie. I should have taken a cooler or a fish bag and could have fed everybody at the tournament. So Pyrenees are the most amazing dogs, though. Once a sir, always a sir. Yeah. Well, Tim, if I'll go back to Fort Cobb with you, but I'm not going to fish for largemouth. I'm going to fish for sand bass and hybrids. Although I know Modog's gone now, but I can still catch catfish when sand bass fishing at Ellsworth. In fact, the last 2 times I went out to Ellsworth to sand bass fish, all I caught were catfish. Maybe next year. Well, you know what? Next year or even this year, hopefully I've got a video coming out this week. I'll be covering a lot more water. So yeah. So Aaron Dizzle, do I have the Lawton permits? I did. So Lawton has changed their laws or rules. You no longer have to permit your kayak for Ellsworth or Latonka. You just have to buy the annual fishing license. So yes, if you've seen my Jackson Coosa, yes, it still has the permits on there. I just haven't taken them off. But those were from 2022. Hey, Yakshore. Nice to see more people coming in. And I know right after I scheduled this live, I found out somebody else had a video premiere. And I know Matt, 1T, but Modog wants to add that second T in. I know he's going live at 4:00, so definitely not going to go that long. So I've already kind of gone over where SIGO came from. If you guys have any other questions or you missed that part and want me to go over it again, I'll do that. I do appreciate you guys coming in. I sat here for 30 minutes watching and seeing nobody waiting. All right, Tim. Have a great day. Thanks for stopping in. My dogs are settled down for a few minutes till the kids across the street scream. Between the beautiful warm weather we've got here, I'm surprised you guys aren't out on the water yourself. In fact, after I scheduled this live and I texted Modog, I said, just scheduled a live. If you're not out fishing, love for you to come in. And right then I'm headed to post fish. What's the biggest bass I've caught on a kayak? So length or weight? I think because when I first got my Jackson Coosa 2 years ago, I went out to Lake Latonka because that's where I was fishing out of my original kayak. And both fish, yes, were on a spinnerbait. So one weekend I was at the south end, throwing up into the rocks and got a backlash. So I was slow rolling my spinnerbait just off the boulders and caught what I would guess around a 5-pound largemouth in January. Don't know what the water temperature was. The outside air temperature was about 60 degrees, so it was one of those pretty January days. And it was actually the first fish that I caught off of my Jackson Coosa. And then a couple of weeks later, I was at the north end and fishing near some docks, near a jetty point, and I saw one little stick, literally smaller than my finger, sticking out of the water out in the middle. Um, this was before I had my fish finder, so I didn't know water temperature again. I didn't know depth. I didn't know anything. But I had my trusty spinnerbait on and threw towards that stick maybe 10 times. And I said, all right, this is the last time I'm throwing towards this stick. And then all of a sudden, my line moved sideways. And that was definitely a 5 pound. I ended up weighing that one. But that was my first experience with a sleigh ride, was getting a 5 pound largemouth. I did not have a net for either one of those fish. I hadn't even thought about getting a net for my kayak. And that thing took me around and headed for even shallower water towards boat docks. And I I lipped it straight from the water, got it in. I did weigh that one. That was 5 pounds. So that was about 2 years ago. Last year, their Western Oklahoma kayak anglers were going to be fishing Lake Elmer Thomas, or Letra, as we call it, and super clear water, tons of grass. The two conditions that I am horrible at. Thanks, Modog. Um, hey, River Rat. So spent about a month with Modog and Scott Zimmerman on Letra, basically just learning how to fish super clear water and grass. And I think it was the Saturday before the tournament. So we'd been there maybe 3 weekends in a row. And Scott Zimmerman has a Jackson Nar. And I'd found one cove where I could throw an underspin with a 6-inch shad tail, big shad tail. I'd found where I could get a good fish out of that, and I caught a 21-inch largemouth. I did not weigh it, but I know for length at that time, that was definitely my personal best. And then we headed back towards the boat ramp, and Scott and I were going to fish down the bank. And he got a little slow, and I got in front of him, and I threw my spinnerbait just out of casting distance ahead of him. And there was some grass sticking up, and I threw it right to the bank, to the edge of the bank. And all of a sudden, my line took off. And that was just over 22 inches and just under 6 pounds on a spinner. All my biggest ones, except one, have been on a spinnerbait. So if you want to know why I love a spinnerbait, 3 of my top 4 have been spinnerbaits. So, and then, yeah, that was actually after going to Fort Cobb, where all I caught was trash fish. So that day was definitely a good day to not catch catfish. Letra is the one place I have not caught a catfish yet. But if I get back out there, I'm sure Modog says they're there. So, hey, River Rat, just hanging out, trying to explain the channel name change. And because I know I've jumped into some people's lives this week and they don't know who I am because I changed it. And explaining where SIGO comes from. So since you're in here, I know you might have missed it. Former, I can't say former yet. I'm still getting paid by the Army. So signal officer, I'd always get yelled at from across the tent, across the building. You'd hear SIGO, and I would have to come running to fix whatever it was. So that's where the SIGO part came from. And yeah. And then changing the name, I debated on it. Actually came from Ken, because I think it was a Sunday afternoon. I was watching Ken, the boring fisherman. I can't even do that. But I was watching some of his videos, and my wife actually said he was boring, and I started laughing and said, "That's exactly his channel name." And she said, "Well, you need to change yours because your name isn't going to do it. You need something catchy like that too." So that's where SIGO came from. Basically, looking at who am I? Well, Ken's the supposedly boring fisherman, and that's where SIGO came from. And so I got the new logo. And yes, I promised a week ago in Modog's Live that if I hit 100, I would get stickers. So they will be coming soon, probably in the next month or two, as soon as I can get them made. And they're going to look just like the channel logo, the state of Oklahoma outline, SIGO, and the American flag up in the panhandle, and kayak fishing main logo. And then there is a star, which is in the southwest corner of the state, which is essentially where we live. So that's the backstory of the logo itself. Well, Yak Shore, there's plenty of us here. We would love to fish with you, and just don't make any videos of Southwest Oklahoma because we're trying to keep it quiet of how great it is down here. Everybody thinks we're out here in the middle of nowhere and just wide open plains here in Southwest Oklahoma, and there's no big fish. And Tim Vaughn can tell you, and he actually, for this upcoming season, we're doing an online tournament, and he's taking Letra off of it because he knows those that have fished Letra and know Letra automatic win. So he actually took it off, which I don't blame him. I think I might have been part of that too. Said, if you keep that on there, that's where the winner's going to be. And so he pulled it off and make it a little harder for us, which is fine. That's why I fish Latonka a lot. Plus, I've followed some people with the Oklahoma kayak anglers on Ellsworth, so I know some of their favorite spots too. But yeah, Great Lakes down here. Well, river rat, that's because you put dough bait on treble hooks. I'm catching them on single hook spinner baits that are 3/8 to half ounce. I really do appreciate you guys coming in here. I've been nervous for the last hour since I decided to do a live. How many people would show up, especially on a Sunday afternoon? So thank you all so much. So if you guys don't have any more, oh, there is another question or statement. Caught a big bass out of your kayak, just over 6 pounds. Oh, on an Alabama rig. Well, Chickamauga, yeah, that was a small one, from what I've heard. I've heard Chickamauga has some giants in there, and there are some giants here in Southwest Oklahoma. Again, we try to keep it quiet, but you all are welcome to come join us. We'll show you where they're at. An 11-pounder last week. Yeah, I don't think we have 11s. I've heard of 8s and 10s at Letra. The state record smallmouth is here at Latonka, and it was just under 7. And supposedly the state has come and done electroshock surveys, and there's even bigger smallmouth that just haven't been caught. And actually, I think I caught the last fish I caught, I haven't caught one in 24 yet, but the last fish of 2023 was 2 days before Christmas on a drop shot, and it was 18.5-inch smallmouth. My first drop shot fish, the first day I fished a drop shot. So if Tim's still here now, he knows one of my new go-to baits for this upcoming tournament season. Anybody have any kayak questions? Because if you're friends with me on Facebook, I did get the live in yesterday for our bass and bagels. And now that I've got this figured out, I will be doing bass and bagels again from Tulsa this coming Saturday. So hopefully we get that all put out there. Any tips for learning quickly how to bass fish from a kayak? No, absolutely none. Um, I've been kayak fishing for about 2.5 years, and it started out in a small 10-foot kayak, and I caught a sand bass on my first trip, which growing up, that's what my granddaddy fished for was sand bass. So that kind of got me hooked into fishing again. And I didn't really start bass fishing probably till this time last year, actually focusing on bass fishing because I'd gotten Jackson Kayak had agreed to bring me onto their fishing team. Oklahoma City Kayak had started a pro staff program and they brought me onto that too. So I got into bass fishing to help promote those two great companies. A sand bass is a white bass. So here in Oklahoma, they're considered an invasive species. There's no limit, no size requirement. Um, some people, when they're crossed with a striper, they'll call the white bass and striper crossbreed a wiper. I don't know. I think that's you East Coast crazy people. Here we just call them hybrids. So no, there's no tips for learning quickly. I can tell you those first two biggest fish I caught did not have a fish finder, didn't know the water temperature, didn't know anything, and I probably lucked into them. Um, did end up getting a fish finder for Father's Day that year, and I didn't catch a fish for another 4 months. Hey, Skipjack Cindy. So I would say just time on the water is the best learning tool. Get out there and throw something around. You know me, I'm going to say a spinnerbait year round. There's other people that throw crankbaits year round. Some people, it's nothing but a Texas rig. Some people, the first thing they pick up is a drop shot or a Ned rig. And the best advice I got was from Big Mike Galbraith, president of the Oklahoma Kayak Anglers. Throw what you're confident in. I was so nervous before my first tournament. I went up the week before, blanked on pre-fishing, and he was like, throw what you're confident in. So I threw a spinnerbait the day of the tournament and caught my one fish. Yeah, sure. We got it. There's so many of you that I need to go fish with, whether it's here or where you guys are at. Um, get up with Ron up there in Pennsylvania. There's so many places. Yakety yak. Okay, Cindy. Thanks. I really do appreciate you guys coming in. This is actually lasting a whole lot longer than I expected. I thought after 5 minutes nobody would be here and I would just end it and delete it. So I'm glad you guys are here. Well, Modog lives exactly 700 meters that way, which is less than a kilometer, maybe half a mile. And we don't fish that often together either. That's kind of why he's mad today. Because I told him that he needed to let me know when he goes fishing so I could go with him. But I decided to do the live at the same time he messaged me that he was headed to go fish. So if you're 4 hours away, is there a good place in the middle, 2 hours away? Because I know Tim Vaughn, he's probably a good 2.5 hours away from me, but there's really nothing between us. Oh, yeah. Well, Modog was fishing a lot at night. He can get away with that being Mr. Mom. Back then, I was still working a lot. I'm still nervous. I'm playing with my wedding ring. I I'm so nervous. You guys are making this so much better for me than I expected. He is Mr. Mom. He's lucky that he doesn't have a bunch in diapers. And if you've seen the movie Mr. Mom, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's because I guess I just dated how old I am. And now you're telling everybody how old you are. Yeah, that's Modog said the same thing when I stopped by last night to pick up the prizes. He was talking, "You're only 32?" Oh man. Mr. Mom was a movie from the 1980s. That's where I'm getting it from. Yeah, I'm a couple of decades older than you. So but yeah, Tim talked about I said Tim. Sorry if he's listening. Sorry, Modog. Uh that his first live lasted just a few minutes and now he goes 5 hours and we all hang on and fall asleep to listening to Modog. Speaking of which, Thursday night, obviously it was getting late. Um, I switched from my computer to my phone to get ready for bed. And then as soon as I got in bed, I put my headphones in and brought up Modog's Live on my iPad. And my wife actually looked over and said, "We're not going to bed with Modog, are we?" It's like, he's only got two more things to give away. Yeah, in fact, that's exactly, Cindy. If I miss somebody's live, like last night, I missed Matt's live, and I know there's a few going live later today. My wife has actually come in and said, "Who are you watching tonight? Whose live are you going to be in?" So yeah, she's definitely understands that I'm enjoying when you guys go live. So yeah, and exactly. That's the reason why I wanted to explain where SIGO came from because I didn't want to get accused of being Modog from a secondary account, like happened the other night. So, well, I'm going to end this here because this is already so much longer than I expected because so many of you great people did show up. So, I know there's at least one more live coming up. Sorry, in 30 minutes from everybody that we follow. Um, I know somebody just premiered a video 30 minutes ago. So I will see you all in those lives tonight. Thank you, Yakshore. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, everybody that was in here. And if you have any more questions and I'm in your live, let me know, whatever. Um, Hope to have a couple of videos because there's something new in my garage that I brought home last night. And maybe I'll premiere it in Modog's Thursday Night Live. So thank you all. Talk to you later. Oh, I can actually hit not yet because Cindy asked a great question. Um, Honestly, I don't care, Cindy, because I will say one reason I stayed with Del Patton as long as I did, because so many like watching Modog, he would call people out by name, and I'm looking through the chat going, who's he talking to? Because honestly, if your name's not in there, I haven't learned your name yet. I just go by your handle. So I don't care what you call me. I've been called a lot worse. SIGO is a slang term, and it can either be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. In my experience, it's been more bad than good, but it is a term of endearment in the military. So I wear it with honor. Now I see why Modog has problems finding stickers. The screen's reversed. So yes, the American flag, I still wear it on everything. Call me Sigo, call me Dell, don't care. I just appreciate you guys watching my videos and getting to meet you guys. So with that, I'll end this here and see you on your lives.